Hey, everybody, welcome back to Locked In. Tonight, we're going to take a look at a new quarterback for the Florida Gators, DJ Lagway, who is allegedly a five-star recruit. Um, Good runner with a quarterback with a really interesting throwing motion. That's I guess where we'll start. Um, what do you say, Chance? Who's this guy remind you of?
like a like a worse Jalen Milrow almost. Um, so I think Jalen Milrow manages a game better than this guy probably does. I mean, he's been in Alabama for a few years under Nick Saban, but I mean, so they look they're physically about the same. You know, this dude's in the 6'3" and the 200s. So, but like his motion, it's kind of like he's trying too much to be like Patrick Mahomes, not trying to be like a traditional thrower, but just kind of like sidearm. Like I don't really know how he throws it sometimes, but it's not the full 90-degree bend in your arm over and twist. It's more of that sidearm. Like I don't know. I just don't like it. Said it's not useful or practical in most instances on a football field. I mean, there are times for it, of course. That's where Patrick makes his money, on the special plays. But where he really makes his money is that bread and butter, that traditional 90-degree bend
Yeah,
and, over the head. But, when you just got somebody just, I mean, I don't know. And he never really
well,
has
it's
any drive on his ball. That's what it is. There's no drive on it because there's always like a lob to it. It's always a touch pass or a lob pass because there's no drop, there's no follow through. It's all just side. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know if anybody could. I mean, you can watch the whole 9 minutes of it, and I don't know if you'll see him drive the ball more than once, just because of his the way he throws the ball. So you're not like it's hard to, just throwing it sidearm. You can't really get a
mhm.
good drive into the ball.
And one of the things too, I think that's interesting in watching him, how low he holds the ball. Like he always holds it like
From his
belly
hip.
button high.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's always in that, like almost like in that, almost like, holster range. And he just, kind of comes. Yeah, I
yeah,
think
like
that one looked a little more like typical, but even so, it's barely above sidearm.
yeah. I mean, you just hold it right there, almost in
I
your
mean,
hip pocket, and then just bring it up sidearm, kind of toss it, kind
you
of what
you
he
wonder
does.
you wonder how that's going to translate. I mean,
And
I don't know. I mean, it could be done, I guess, but I mean, I would have to think that that's going to be. I don't know. I mean, because look how many balls he throws that
I
have
think
like
this might
that
be the worst one I've saw.
this upward trajectory,
Yeah,
almost like I don't even know how you describe it, but he's got a very very
a touch. It's just a touch
unorthodox,
on it. Yeah,
very unorthodox what he does.
I don't know. Now I'd say Florida definitely wanted this guy along with many other people just because of his
Uh,
pure athleticism and his arm power. Said they can always give him a quarterback coach and teach him how to throw is what I'm sure they're thinking. And even
yeah,
if you do have a running back, I mean a quarterback back there commanding your offense, run the triple option. So he runs it in high school a few times, and he does pretty well with it. So he's a big runner. So I mean, let him do what he's good at. Let him pass the ball maybe 10 times a game and run the ball 30. Said you just got to think, is his body going to be able to keep up with that in the SEC?
yeah.
And one thing to point out is that you watch this Florida team play. So they have Graham Mertz at quarterback, and he's more of a like traditional pocket passer, just gonna stand in there, be your, I
Hmm.
mean, your average Joe traditional, like, I mean, textbook quarterback. And I mean, make your reads, go through your progression. This guy's not. He's more the Jalen Milrow, one and done. I'm gonna run type of guy, and he runs a lot, and I mean he's good at it. Granted, he's very good at it, but that is not always going to work in college, especially when people key in on it.
Yeah.
Said, but it's if they could just get that motion fixed with his arm, because I mean you see it there. Said he's throwing it about at his shoulder, and like you're gonna get balls batted away when that happens. You're not gonna be as accurate. You're not gonna be able to drive the ball down the field to fit it into tighter windows. So now, if they're just running verticals the whole time, surely he can just throw it up for them to catch down the field. But that's not how football works. So I mean, I doubt you see that very productive working. So I don't know. There's you got much else to say about this guy, Log?
No, I think that I don't know. I think he's a risk. I don't personally. I don't see how that he. I don't see how he's a 5-star at quarterback. I mean, because like what we've said before. I mean, whenever you go back, this Lagway is a long way from a George McIntyre.
See, and I knew you was
Long
gonna
way,
say that because like George
and
McIntyre just looks crisp. He looks
he
refined.
does.
He looks ready.
And that's with this. I mean, I don't know. I would be. I mean, I would even be interested in seeing. Will he be with them in spring, or is he still
He should be with them in spring.
okay? I would be really interested to know like how this is translating, because I mean, I think of like you think of a guy like Tebow, who had that was always the thing that plagued him, as everybody talked about, the throwing motion. I mean, this is way past Tebow in my opinion. I don't know how you fix it. He's one of those. I mean, do you think that like you can? I mean, this is not just like saying, "Hey, change this a little." You're asking him to change everything about how he throws that ball. Um, I don't know. I think that would be hard to do, but and I don't know. I mean, maybe it can work out, but it just to me, I think that you would have to. Your offense would in at the SEC level, your offense is going to have to be run it with the quarterback. It's going to have to be like a read option type thing, because I think that he's going to find difficulties. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's going to be okay. But I don't see this. I don't see this panning out, and it makes me wonder. Why you would put. I mean, Billy and Napier's already. I mean, that's like the hottest seat in the country probably. And I don't know why you would. Why you would go. Go hard after a quarterback like this who's so unorthodox. I mean, he can run, but
I mean, he's
that's not
jumping,
really what you
passing the ball, like
that's not
he's
really what you want a
leaving the
quarterback to do.
ground. Like I just don't know, like, because I mean sometimes he'll have a good throwing action, but he'll just
Yeah,
jump. Like every time he has a good throwing action, I swear he jumps like off the ground 2 feet. It's like I don't know. So I mean,
yeah, it's
if somebody can fix it, I hope one day they can coach my kid to be a quarterback. Because they could turn my kid of all people into a 5-star quarterback if they could do that. I mean,
yeah,
my word. So,
yeah.
but
It'd be asking for a lot to get
yeah,
this,
it really
get
would
this.
be to break down habits from whenever he started throwing a football to fix all that 18 years, whatever it is, 14, 13 years of throwing a
Yeah.
football, break that down, make him learn a new way. So,
Well, that's what I wonder with that is if this is not like a product of someone who almost just like a backyard type thing that
yeah,
he started throwing this way, and you get him, you have him, in football, because he strikes me as like, one of those like in probably in like, youth, through high school, he's
bigger,
a big
faster,
body
stronger.
runner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his running ability is what really is going to set him apart. But the thing that I wonder though, with it is that was he one of those that like I know, I mean, you know, we're not the only people in the world who look at this guy and say, man, that throwing motion's weird. Um, I wonder if that they were having enough success that they thought that altering that arm action was just it could cause more problems than it solved. And so let's stay with what we've got. Now, I mean, one of the things too that that I think is worth saying, I think I looked just a second ago, and like I think last season his team was like 500. So I mean, he's they're half and half. They're not the best in the world. They're not the worst in the world. I mean, they do play in big Texas football, so that's saying something. But you
But
just
isn't it
wonder
saying a
why.
lot more than it's not? I mean, you're up
I
there
think it
playing
is.
against good football, and it's like you see him. He's not going through progressions. He's not making reads. He's looking at one thing, and if it's not there, he's throwing it. Even if it's not there, or he's running the football. And I mean,
Yeah,
like against Texas football, like big Texas football, that's not going to work out. It's definitely not going to work out in college.
yeah. I don't think so. I wonder. I mean, I don't see this project working out for Florida. I don't see a lot of stuff working out for Florida though. I mean, I think that it's just. Um, I think they made a bad hire in Billy Napier. I don't think that he's up to par whenever it comes to the level that Florida plays on, is expected to play on. Which, I mean, I think the expectation has had you that maybe I'm wrong, but Florida ain't Florida. They've fallen off a lot, and I just don't think that Napier is going to get them. I think he's dead man walking. If Florida is still serious about football, I don't think that but I mean, I mean, hopefully that the same people who hired him would, be looking for a different coach, because I mean that's a powerhouse program that's just, falling into a whatever.
Because I mean,
And
they're in a hotbed of recruits, so there's
yeah, they are.
recruits everywhere
Yeah,
down
there's
there.
no reason why you can't get them.
But I
You don't
think
need to go
they're
to Texas and get a guy who throws a football like Dennis Eckersley, pitched a baseball, sidearmed. I don't. If you got to go to Texas to get that, that pretty much tells me there ain't nobody in Florida interested in what you're selling.
Yeah, and that was going to be my thing is that, I think you're seeing the change, from Florida to Florida State again. Said,
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
that's one of the things, like the difference between them schools in the same state. Is that, we saw Florida State good for a while. Then we didn't really see them good while Florida was good, not as good. And
Yeah,
as that started to tinker off, we saw Florida be really good for a few years, and Florida State wasn't. And then just recently, Florida State's been really good and
yeah.
making pushes for playoffs, and we saw Florida be really bad. So I mean,
And I think that like there was a time whenever both Florida and Florida State were quite good. Um, those Bowden Spurrier years, they were quite good. Even beyond that, Florida State still had some good years. The Jameis Winston years, they had some good times, but it's just they fell off. But like you say, I mean, I often think like one game that always I go back to, and I think is like it's like you could just put your finger on a big change, and it has nothing to do with Florida or DJ Lagway, but I always remember that as being like a moment like that, not in that moment, but like after that moment. I mean, I learned a lot about college football. Was the Hobnail Boot game, Georgia and Tennessee, when Tennessee or when Georgia went up there and beat Tennessee. That year David Green and all those guys, and that was a signature win. For Mark Rick. And the thing that happened little by little is like what you don't think about is that uh, Jim Donnan didn't do worth a dang at Georgia recruiting um, Atlanta. And why in the world you wouldn't do that? I don't know. Maybe he thought that I don't know. Maybe he didn't like the kind of kids that came out from inner Atlanta. But those guys can play football, and you start looking like your Jamal Lewis's and people like that Phil Fulmer was pulling in Knoxville after Dobnell Boot, or not Dobnell. That was the other one, the Hobnail Boot game with that David Green, Musa Smith, all those guys. That shifted the tide. And man, Tennessee, they couldn't buy one after that. And they started losing those Georgia recruits. And I think that you see that it's like whenever that's your lifeblood, whenever those recruits die up or dry, whenever the recruiting stream dries up, I think you got a tough time. And that's no disrespect to Lagway. Congratulations, on landing you a spot, to place like Florida. But like I say, if you got to go to Texas to find a sidearm quarterback, who's really more of a probably like a tight end.
or running back.
I mean, I think that your days are numbered. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I think
I don't have
everybody
much else
knows.
to say, other than
Yeah,
that.
everybody knows our opinion on Jalen Milrow, and we're over here saying this guy's Jalen Milrow, but to a lesser extent,
Oh,
that's
he's not as good as Jalen
yeah,
Milrow. No,
to
no,
a way
there's
lesser
no,
extent. It's
there's
like,
no, because I mean you can win plenty of football games. Jalen Milrow at quarterback. This guy right here. I mean, I'm interested just to see how spring treats him.
yeah, city. That's yeah, yeah. That's a big question because I mean he should be at spring, but I mean I haven't heard much out of the Florida camp. But
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll go over their spring game and see what he has to offer
yeah,
whenever they play. But be looking forward to that. For everything else, though, stay locked in, everyone.